What's happening, folks? So just going to discuss my weekly outlook from the monthly down to the 4 hour. So 2 weeks into the month so far, all we've seen is various price action. That's how we're sort of looking at it in the monthly at the minute. Not really surprising to see some form of downside based on market position. We're sort of right at the top of that triangle here, which has been completed. The sort of question I'm asking myself now is, well, can we remain, can structure remain bullish within this month, take us further side? So the key things I'm mainly paying attention to, of course, is, well, not so much on the monthly, but it's more so. Let me just see here. I suppose that level's not. Let me just have a look at this in the daily. I've got so much shit on here, and see, to be honest, like, don't pay any attention to it. Half of it isn't relevant. Right? One thing I just wanted to look at there was this little level in here. From the 14th in terms of reactions here, kind of fairly recent. Yeah, so the main thing I was looking at in the monthly was just because when we're sort of trading up in here, it's like, well, you can clearly see that prices fail to come above here. And then once we do get above where we're trading within here. Price fails to remain in here, pulls down, then we come back up, and now we're basically trading back in here again. So this whole support zone, you could then also say, is basically near enough this whole resistance zone as well. I'm sort of just looking for price to remain, preferably I would like price to remain above the support, because the way I kind of look at things is, well, if we're trading below, there's obviously the chance for that to be that level to act as a potential level for lower resistance. And again, looking at that level in here on the 4 hour or on structure is this level here, and this sort of lines up nicely with the sort of structure that we have on the daily, this structure, which is basically here. So in essence, I would like price to respect this structure, this previous structure, and to see some form of upside. Of course, if price does that and continues bullish, that's great, but further downside, and if we have candles closing below this resistance, it just means on the way back up, it's just an additional level that I would prefer not to worry about. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of realistically all I'm really paying attention to. The monthly is just this little support here, and just to see where we come in relation to that, and what sort of reaction do we get in and around that area. The weekly, look at that as it came up to previous structure, form resistance, confirm resistance. Last week we sort of respected these sort of mid-range levels. The week before sort of respected these as well. So for me, it's kind of just, well, what's going to happen next week or this week coming? Most likely there's going to be some form of downside. So how far do we come? Do we respect the low of the previous week? Do we break that and then come back up? Who knows? When we do break that, we're sort of trading into that daily and 4-hour structure in here. So is that maybe where price is going to come to before it finds support for further upside? Who knows? But looking then on the daily, this is where you could say, like, looking at the monthly, oh, we're very bearish. Weekly, with confirmed resistance, we should then continue down. But this is then when I get to the daily, the sort of structure. Yes, we're bearish for the past 2 weeks, but where are we in terms of market position? Price is trading basically at previous structure resistance on the daily. We can clearly see, not this week but the previous week, furthest point that we come down on the Thursday, is near enough bang on the top of the resistance zone of this previous structure in here. And then again this week we came all the way down on Thursday, pulled down into this resistance, and reacted, and then we've had some form of upside from there. I mean, before this week printed, and we sort of had this. Let me just see. Sorry, this candle. Yeah. So this was Friday last week. You know, my sort of thought process was this has formed a nice solid support. We can have some downside this week, but I would be looking for this support to hold and not be validated. You can clearly see that even if you've done the zone, we've sort of broken through that, but we are finding some form of upside. We are finding some reaction from this previous support, some reaction from then this previous resistance. So this structure is still intact, and I believe this is going to be sort of key for me going into next week, or this week coming. So on the daily then, just looking at when I bring on my sort of pulls and drawings and all that shit, there's definitely some of this stuff I can get rid of, just to clear up my charts a little bit. So this little mid-range level on the 4 hour, I'm just going to get rid of this for now. I can always fire things back on, but just to clear things up a little bit, I don't really need this at the minute. So this sort of structure is the daily resistance zone, which ultimately I've just refined a little more by using the 4 hour. Clearly see that we've popped into here on Friday, and we've found some form of reaction to the upside, so this is very much relevant. I understand that the daily is here. The price could come and break below this, and people might think, well, oh, we're below this structure, should go down. But again, then this daily resistance, which is also the monthly support level, which I was speaking about on the monthly, is where we could see that, because on the daily, that is the daily resistance zone. So until we're basically below that is where I wouldn't want price to sort of breach. You know, price could come below here and come back up, but just means that if that happens, then this could potentially be this, or this level could potentially be into here. And again, if I'm bullish, higher time frame, bullish bias, I would be expecting this structure, or I would be looking for this structure to remain intact and then see some further upside. So let me just flick back to the daily just to kind of see what I am looking at again. Here's that level. Some of these levels aren't really so much relevant because I understand that this is a whole zone. There's going to be levels within here, but most recently, and that's what sort of areas I'm going to be paying attention to. And you know, I feel like potentially just having these levels on, just as a gauge, in terms of where is price. I think that's important, because if I am trading in here per se, I want to know that I'm trading into a 4 hour support. I want to know I'm trading into a daily support, or I at least want to know that I'm trading away from them. So let me see daily here. This little zone here, sort of basically, I'm just gonna move this a little bit here. All this here. At the end of the day, I don't really need to worry about that. I know that that's created that. It'll be a 4 hour zone for me, which technically is the daily zone as well. Just refined a little more. And this little level here, I'm just going to make that here, change that to a support. So just to keep things a little bit tidier, I can always refer back to these previous zones and previous outlooks and that. But at the end of the day, that is a lot neater, a lot cleaner. in terms of where we could be trading if we get there. So that's how we're looking at the daily. Um, yeah. So my main focus for this week is going to be this sort of region here, and it's just going to be, can price hold structure in here, and can we start to break out and above into here, and create new structures, and of course give us that sort of upside. So it's kind of like when I think about the previous week, my weekly outlook, I was looking for this Friday candle to hold support. It's then being validated by this downside. Of course, there was some news and stuff as well that was present last week, which was the cause for these moves. So now that Friday has formed a support, comparing this candle to the previous candle, it's not such a strong support. But again, it was influenced by news. So can this support hold? Can price respect this candle? Can price, if we are going to have some downside, whether that comes at the start of the week, the middle of the week, at the end of the week, I don't know. But if it comes at the start of the week, I would be more so looking for, right, how far is the downside, and do we respect these sorts of levels in terms of this support, these lows, this structure, and do we then start to maybe change structure in here to support upside and that sort of thing. But again, price might open, respect the support that was formed, get some form of upside at the week, and then we maybe have some form of downside which doesn't come so deep, and we form some structure in here, higher supports, that sort of thing, throughout the week, which we can then respect come the end of the week if we do see some form of downside. Well, we sort of have a support here. If you're looking at this on the 1 hour, we can clearly see how on Friday this support was very much relevant. As soon as we were able to close above this support here, price respected that, got further upside. Again, later on Friday, we can see that we come all the way back down and tested this and reacted and rejected, and now that's a higher support. So this level right here is very much relevant, very much important in my opinion. So that's going to be the first area I'm going to be looking at, can price respect, so let me just draw that across. I'm just going to keep this in actually. I'm just going to put this yellow. So I know that I have got this support as first area of contact. I've got this whole support zone. I've got a weekly resistance in here. I've got previous daily and 4-hour structure resistance. I've also got daily resistance and also monthly support here. So there's quite a lot of areas for price to respect and find areas where it wants to push from. It can come all the way down as here, but I know we've got a lot in between. So seeing some form of downside and breakdown of structure, like, it's not going to worry me too much until we're below here. And when I say worry, it's probably more so maybe change in bias short term, because essentially my thought process is, well, if we open very bearish and price is down here, well, if price can respect these structures and start to form lower like 4-hour lower resistances, change in structure on the 1 hour to the downside, that's going to give you reason to look for trades like that, further downside, and you could play maybe like a longer term trade to play this whole range, because this is where we're trading within. But for me, I'm very much bullish. I like how we have respected this previous resistance and we have pushed away from it. Now I need to ask the question of price, can we remain above this, and can we push to the upside? So for buys, for me, I mean, it's a little bit, let me just have a look at the 1 hour. You know, I was having a look at this during the week, or not during the week, Friday, I believe Friday evening. I'm just going to change color just for the sake of drawing zones. I just want to kind of see what makes sense for me in terms of looking through time frames and that. Because I'm basically seeing this as one whole zone here. You know, price can close above, or remain within. Then there's no reason why this week price can't test the outward end of that zone. So I think for me this is going to provide an opportunity to look for a buy. And this can come in two ways. I feel like if price opens and we open bullish and we have two bullish candles leading into the session, leading into London session tomorrow, then I'm going to be looking for buys and for targets. Top of the range makes sense to me. You know, you can look at the 30-minute and maybe break down levels in here as profit taking levels. You know, if price is pushing up and there's reaction, that's definitely going to be an option for me. Another option is going to be if price opens bearish, right, and you maybe have some form of bearish price action and price comes to a previous support and then price pushes up and closes within, and there's maybe structure in here or structure below before price breaks in, then I could potentially take an option where I take a buy, target the top of the range, use stop loss down here and use or somewhere in here, and then maybe the breakdown of that structure is where I would manage a position. So I feel like these are the sort of things I'm going to be looking for playing into this range, whether that comes tomorrow, whether that comes Tuesday, Wednesday, I don't know, but that's sort of what I would be looking for buying opportunities, specifically for that little range there on the 1 hour. See, to be honest, like sells, I'm not really interested in selling opportunities, to be honest. I just think if price opens bearish and it pushes down, I just think it's very difficult to sell into previous support that is respected this level. You know, even looking at it on the 30-minute, it's not such an attractive place to be selling. You know, there's not really clean traffic, there's not range, or sorry, there's not clean traffic, there is range, it's very rangy. And then again, you're selling at higher time frame supports, which is prime areas for buys for a lot of people. So to me, that would be selling in the wrong area. Now, of course, in the session in London, if things are setting up with London open and volume and you can see price moving to the downside, then there's every chance a lot of these levels in here don't get respected and price just tanks through. You know, that wouldn't surprise me. However, taking maybe like structure based trades and stuff in there, I'm not so fond of that. So I'm just going to mark a little ray in here. I'm just going to go above these highs, and that's going to be an opportunity for me to buy this week. Other areas to buy based on 4 hour, where it makes sense to buy. Ultimately, this is, you know, you could look at this as structure where we've pushed down. So if we get above this and we can respect this, you could say that that makes sense to maybe play up to here, play into this range. But it does get a little bit more difficult when I look at the ranges and the zones, because a lot of these kind of meet each other quite nicely, in a sense that you've got a support here, got a resistance here, which then becomes support. And if I just draw this on 4 hour, take this magnitude off. If I just make this orange, I'm looking at this as a zone here. I'm looking at this as a zone. You can clearly see that when we come up here, we do this, right? So me just mark this as 4-hour support. So it doesn't really make sense for me to sell above. Let me actually just look at this on the 1 hour. I suppose, like, see, because you look at this in the 4 hour, and I say to myself, well, it doesn't really make sense to maybe sell above here because you're selling into a 4-hour support zone, which I completely agree with. You look at it then on the 1 hour, it's a lot better structured where you've got this solid support, and this isn't like a wick. But I think for just being on the safe side, I feel like safer buys are going to then become above here, and this is just solely based on playing as a range. You know, if we can come in above this support, remain within, no reason why we can't test the top end of the range or target mid-range levels, that sort of stuff. But I could also see volume-based pushes from here, you know, because essentially as soon as you get above these wicks in this lower time frame resistance, you've got a clean candle here. But again, this candle was news influence, so if you disregard this candle completely, what have you got? You've got resistance in here, support in here, you've got support here, you've got resistance here, you've got support here. So there definitely is going to be levels in here which could pose for reaction in here, disregarding the move that was influenced by news. So areas that make sense for me to buy is going to be above here, and then of course again, you know, above here. Based on structure, of course, session trades are a little bit different because there's going to be structure within the candles that form the session bias, which give direction and a bit more clue as to where price could go. But not something I can look at now because they haven't formed yet. Again, sales aren't really, I don't really like the idea of sales, but for me, I'm just going to put a level here. A lot of these levels as well, if I just bring on, I just want to bring on what I done last week. Just to kind of have a look at areas which I was looking at last week. So again, we've got up here, we've got here, which is sort of aligning with this week, very much the same. Looking at buys in and around here on the basis of being above this structure. Isn't maybe going to be so much this week, but I just wanted to see if in comparison, was there anything that was relevant last week that would still be relevant this week. What I was pondering over was just if sales made sense below here. The sort of thought process behind it. Not saying that it might be something I plot, but the only thought process I was having was, well, what if price, you know, if we get some form of upside, and price then maybe reacts from here, and maybe there's some form of breakdown in price, and it's more so if price then comes into this zone and there's some form of change in structure, whether it's reacting off the resistance or off the zone, and there's a breakdown, and that allows me to then play the idea that I was playing this way up, only down. But again, that's going to require upside, failure to continue, change in structure back to downside, and that sort of stuff. So I wouldn't be looking for that unless I see some form of, you know, rejection and reaction of this sort of level. You know, for instance, I believe, just say for example, I come to London tomorrow and there's maybe a bullish candle. This is obviously going to require some form of volume during the Asian session, but even if it wasn't during the Asian session yet tomorrow, and just say for example we're bullish, and then there's some form of reaction and rejection here, and there's some form of failure to continue. Price is clearly showing that it doesn't want to go up, and there is then structure broken to the downside, clean traffic or targets in here. It could then play that. That's the only thing I'm thinking of for potential sells. I don't like the idea of selling in here. I don't like the idea of selling into this support, into this 4-hour support, into this weekly resistance. Because essentially for me this is a structure for buys at the minute. So this structure is still intact. So until that structure is broken, which is going to be then down here, I don't think selling in here is wise. So for me, main focus is probably going to be buys this week, but again I will have a bias based on the session. But even if I have a bearish bias and I look at price and it's just pretty shit, nothing's really appealing or easy looking or interesting, then I might just opt to just not trade and just watch price and see what does it offer later on the day, into the following day, and that sort of stuff. I mean, there's no real rush as well. And with my focus being on live decision making for the next while, I really want to get into positions that I feel like are the best possible position, and then take action when in those trades, and not just think that, oh, this is doing this, I should get in here, when it maybe doesn't make so much sense. Kind of similar to what happened on Friday with myself, but I will cover that in sort of like my reflection video that I do, either today or sometime this week, get that uploaded. But that's sort of the only things I'm thinking of at the minute that make sense to me based on structure, and that's about it. Yeah, just have a wee look at the news. Bit of yen news for an Asian session. Some yen news as well. No real pound news on Monday. Tomorrow, some heavy impact pound news at 7 o'clock. So most likely for me, that's going to be meaning trading after this, after 7 a.m. Is there anything later on the day? Some USD news. Wednesday. Thursday. Some news there related to the pound. And then Friday's pretty light. So not such a heavy news day in terms of sessions. Trading from like 7 to 10. But of course, if there are options later on in the day, I'll have to be paying attention to what potentially could spike a reaction in price later on the day. But yeah, folks, that's mainly my outlook there. What I'm looking for, my areas of interest. Not so interested in selling, more interested in waiting for structure from above, and confirm we can remain above and give options to the upside potentially. Kind of perfect area to buy, in my opinion, given this is the overall range. So if we can come down, respect, come back up, going to be options to take buys longer term, or change in structure longer term, and that sort of thing. So if you watch, thank you very much, and I'll get this posted up in the community.